Hey folks, Flarev here. This is a reply to my buddy SonIsTheFatherOfMan and his video about God haters. Now, I've seen you make a couple of videos about this topic, and I've heard you make the argument about God haters, which, if I'm understanding it correctly, goes something like this. The members of the atheist camp, or non-theist camp, if you will, who make arguments against God as if God really existed, are categorized by you as God haters. So I want to draw this out a little bit more. I find it interesting what you had to say on the topic, and I think that it is by far the most sort of potentially inflammatory thing that I've heard you say. Now, you're a pretty respectable and respectful dude. I don't think I've ever heard you say anything that I would call out and out disrespectful, so please don't take this as a dig at you. This is certainly not. But I'd like to draw that out a little bit more. So let me talk about my feelings about God with respect to what it was that you said about God haters. So I will sometimes make arguments that go like this. Well, if the God of Abraham really exists, if he really is what the Bible says he is, then he's a jerk, right? You've heard the argument developed out more than that, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but yeah, the God of Abraham, the God of the Bible, is kind of a prick. Okay, so that could be said to be, from your perspective, a God-hater type of argument. Now, I have two questions for you. One, why is that a wrong argument to make? What's wrong with that argument? Why would you lump that into a category of either incorrectness or perhaps intolerance or what have you? Second question, why does that make me a God hater? Am I speaking in such a way as to presume that God exists and to worry about the existence of God without actually believing that to be the case? I don't think that I am. I think that in that case, what I'm saying is that there are very many people in the world who believe that God does exist. Very many people in the world who believe that the God of Abraham, the God of the Bible, exists literally as it is written in the Bible. And the argument there is that that God is a prick. Why would an atheist make that argument? Well, an atheist would make that argument because the arguments that come from that camp that believes in the literal existence of Yahweh, the God of Abraham, as told in the Bible, is very vocal about a lot of other things, right? And so, since the God of Abraham is sort of the keystone of the moral structure of that camp, it makes sense to try to weaken that keystone if the arguments being made by that camp directly affect me, which they often do. So from my perspective, it's actually a fairly sensible thing to come out as what you might call a God hater. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about, I guess I'd like to hear a clear delineation of the difference between someone who is a God hater and someone who is not a God hater, and how that is relevant, particularly given the arguments that I've just described. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. Very interested in what you've had to say about it so far, so yeah, I'll be looking forward to hearing you develop that a little bit further. And for those of you who maybe are not acquainted with that argument, I will try to dig up the old video where where SonIsTheFatherOfMan talks about the God hater argument, and I'll post it in whatever you call that thing. I guess it's not a sidebar anymore, but we'll come up with a name for it eventually. Meantime, that's where it'll be. And go check out his channel. He has a lot of good things to say. Alright, that's all from me for today, YouTube. Take care, and good luck.